The following interview was sponsored by the Greek American Heritage Society of Philadelphia, preserving and perpetuating our community's history.
Your daughter, Maria Andy Tetamonti, wrote this about you. Most folks do not truly know my father, Gus Andy. Sure, he's the proprietor of Le Mer Beachfront Inn, a fixture at the city council meetings, and a die-hard Cape May denizen for over 4 decades. But to many, the laconic Greek is an enigma of sorts, a hard-working hermit, if you will, and he likes to keep it that way. But it's my wish to share with you the very complicated puzzle that is my often talked about dad. Well, let me ask you, are you a complicated puzzle, an enigma, as your daughter describes?
Not all that much. I do surprise myself, like most people do, but I think I'm as simple as it gets in many ways. I'm very fundamental about many things in life.
We're talking with Gus Andes, whose real name is Costas Antoniades. He lives here in Cape May, New Jersey. He is a business entrepreneur, philanthropist, Hellene, and a member of the Velvendo Society. So, Gus, welcome to Cosmos Philly. Could you give us a little background about yourself?
I was born in Velvendo. We moved to Kozani through the war and after the war. And beyond that, in '51, we arrived in Chicago. And my sister passed away, and the other one developed cold, so we had to move again. We moved to a warmer climate, Miami, Florida, where I went to high school and attended the University of Florida. And after graduating, after getting my master's from Oklahoma, worked in the trade for a while. I came back to the business world that I became familiar with through coming up in New Jersey during the summertime to work.
Can you give us a little bit more background about your family, your Greek heritage? Do you speak fluent Greek? Did you speak Greek after you arrived in the States? What was that like for you?
An impossible task. English is not negotiable with me. I still can't spell a word, even though my daughter is the social editor of Miami Herald. It's very difficult to assimilate, especially if your parents, you don't have anybody. What does that mean? What does that mean? You're constantly stifled.
Are you keeping Greek traditions alive in your home and through your life these years?
To some degree, yeah.
Well, let me ask you about your name. I mean, people around here, around the area, they call you Gus, Andy. Like a lot of us, we've either changed part of our names or all of our names. But when you're here in the States, we hear that they call you Gus. When you go back to Greece, they call you Costa. What's that like for you, and why has your name been changed?
Well, when you first come, you say, what? People ask you, what is your name? What is it? You say Costa. It says, oh, you mean Gus. Oh, you mean Gus. And quite frankly, at that age, I'm not the one who makes the decisions. Somebody else is, when they register you someplace, whether it's school or something, well, it says, give us something that's in English, or something that it's American, that's something that they can relate to. So that's what you wind up with.
Could you talk about your relationship with Ahi down in Washington?
Yeah, I think it's probably the best institution because it relates to both countries. It relates to the rule of law. It relates to a sense of justice. It relates, and it gives appropriate accountability to Greece and to Southeastern Europe. And who else is there to tell you, to testify, to question, or to even introduce legislation that embellishes or gives credit both to U.S. values and values of the territory that we're talking about, which is Greece.
What about the Cyprus issue where it's...
Basically all of it. That's a gross injustice there, and that the United States we haven't done well with Kissinger. We haven't done well with since 1974. But had it not been things like Aki and Mr. Rosidis, things could have been hitting a lot worse.
Well, let's talk about your love of where you're from, Velvendo. Can you talk about your relationship with the village?
Yeah, I think villages have a grand place in this world. And this one is very, very unique in itself. Everything from its climate, its geography, its product. New York scares me. The chorio gives me a sense of belonging. You feel a degree of confidence. You have a degree of confidence. You have a degree of tells you to who you are in a way. You know, the first thing he says, ask somebody, where are you from? You know, there's a difference between a New Yorker or New Jerseyan and a Midwesterner. A world of difference. Same thing goes here.
Let me ask you, we read somewhere that in 2006, through your association with the Velvendo Society, 3 environmental projects were initiated in Velvendo, Greece, and the surrounding areas that involved 1,500 students and 100 teachers. Today, younger generations of Velvendini are more sensitive to their own environmental issues. Could you talk about that and tell us how gratifying it is?
It's very gratifying, and the Silos did a fantastic job, and the reception to it, which is the teachers, the kids, what they have accomplished, and the sensitivity they brought to their own environment. It's overwhelming. The work that the kids did, the work that the teachers did, it's far greater that we have ever envisioned, or the rewards that we have received by, you know, having a certain satisfaction that, you know, we gambled right. Well, Velvendo, it's a beautiful place. It's got a microclimate that is very unique. That's why the 9 mooses, that's where they play in the area. There are things that have developed, like the electric factories that are in what used to be Sarigyol. And that thing was like a diamond. You came down from Castagna, I don't know if you know the territory, but it was like crystal. You could see to the other end of the world. You go there today, the smog is overwhelming. You have 3 or 4 in very close proximity to each other. They burn soft coal, and it's not properly filtered. It's devastating. I know cancer is extremely prevalent in that territory. As good as the place is, it can turn into a trash bin.
Could you talk to us about the library and its significance?
Well, it's something that they need. It's something that they suggested, and we think we can be of some assistance by encouraging them to, you know, and helping out in a small way.
In the past, you've sponsored scholarships for college students from Velvendo, Greece. Are you envisioning doing something along the same lines through the Velvendo Society for Greek Americans here in the United States?
Yeah, I think the society has got a universal, in other words, we're not stuck necessarily just from kids from Velvendo. There can be kids from here. There can be any other issues that we feel it will contribute. Just like the Ahi You know, it's probably one of the biggest workhorses as an institution, and one of the biggest influence that they have had, the success that they've achieved. And I think we will be doing things of this nature.
There's talk of a new project, the musical history of Velvendo. Can you tell us if you'll be getting involved with that project as well?
We definitely think that that's indispensable as well. You want to obtain some of this material while it still exists, while it's still capable of being produced, but still capable of catching the right essence.
When it comes to philanthropy, some choose to be anonymous, others visible. There are pros and cons from both positions. You've chosen the latter, anonymity. Why?
Well, it's not really anonymity. Everything has a title, and this is Velvendo Society. I feel that's the best way, the most constructive way to engage, to involve, and to get the best results possible.
Do you feel that we're doing enough as a Greek American community to teach our young people our Greek history here in the country?
I think how will the Greek values, how will philosophy, how will architecture, how is all the things that we have, Greece has produced in the educational system and society at large, even here in the United States, how do you hold on to something as precious as that? I'm not so sure, but I think probably the one area will be sure that the opportunity is given to everyone. And at the highest level possible is probably the most dominating, or the most it's easier to identify than like having a chair, for example, in a university level. Is far more useful than other means.
Are there changes that the organization needs to make? Are there things you'd like to see the organization do in the future or grow into?
I think they're doing a pretty good job as they are, but you need to involve everybody, irrespective of what my own thoughts are. So I just want to make sure that things are not squandered. That's my main objective. Number two is, if we have to select, try to select things that are meaningful both now and in the future.
When you left after 12 years old, did you keep ties when you returned, or did you have ties with people back there after you returned?
Not really. We were so segmented completely for such long duration that it's hard to even identify people, because we lived in different places. Kozani, for example, after when we left Velvendo, when the war started, when was it? I was only a couple of years old. 1940. So I was still a baby. And then from that point on to the time we left, if they think they have it bad today, they should have lived those days. I mean, this is still as bad as the economy is today. Living in those days was absolute tyranny.
How important is Hellenism to you today, knowing what you know or experiencing life the way you did?
Hellenism is going to be of value to all of the world, whether it's philosophy, whether it's mathematics, whether it's architecture, whatever it is of value is being taught as a course at a university level. And I think this is where some of the emphasis should be placed. Not that anything else should be diminished, but this is the place where it's going to endure the test of time.
why so much effort to help this particular village out?
It's effortless. It doesn't take, like the projects we had. We were only the contributors. They did the work. They did the studies. They actually accomplished and won the awards that they did. And that is a hell of a satisfaction.
Where do you see yourself investing again or continually in Hellenism here in North America or in Greece?
I would say in two places. One is higher education, where people of influence have an opportunity to see, to learn, to respect, and continue that evolution. Number two, as far as institutions of Hellenism and their influence in this country, probably American Hellenic Institute. And I don't know if one has to consciously think and write notes to themselves as to how to go, where to go, but I think you do that instinctively. I think you just fly the right direction.
Gus Andy, thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.